I just remember this is what I've been dreaming for so many years. I was out there, it was just a preliminary game versus Czech, but it felt like the world had just exploded. I was like, this is everything. And your parents are there, my brother was there. It just felt like a moment that was more than me. It was something that my parents had followed along for a while, and just something that I'll never forget.
Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that brings you inside the world of women's hockey, one story at a time. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I'm excited to be joined by Hayley Box, forward with the Etobicoke Dolphins and future University of Wisconsin Badger. Hayley, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good, I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you. Even better now that we finally get a chance to chat. I've been really excited to hear your story and to maybe dig in a little bit further and get to know you a little bit more. You ready to dive in?
But yes, I'm ready.
Perfect. Let's do this. So I want you to start off by taking us right back to the very beginning, thinking back to when you first got into hockey. What was it about the sport that drew you in and made you fall in love with it?
I think something that really brought me closer to the sport was that my older brothers had gotten into it, and I looked up to them with everything they did. I want to do whatever they did. So right when they got into hockey, I asked my parents, I was like, I want to do this. And then it became like a family sport. And so every step of the way, it brought us closer together as a family. So I really think that's what made me want to keep playing.
Okay, so you brought up your brothers, and this is something that you've mentioned a number of times about really being that spark. And I love when the sport's all about a family connection. So I love that. Could you talk about maybe some of those some of the earliest memories that you have of playing the sport with them? Whether maybe that's the drive to and from the rink, maybe that's like an ODR or something like that. Do you remember some of those earliest memories?
Yeah, I would say some of my earliest memories would be driving to Colorado, and we'd do the stick and pucks, and my dad would be out there and he'd be teaching us new moves, our new skating techniques. But some more specific memories back at our house in Cheyenne, Wyoming, my dad had built a synthetic ice rink. And we'd go out there, and my brothers would be like, put on the goalie gear, and I'm going to shoot on you. And I'd be like, I don't want to. And my brothers would get into an argument. That's kind of where it all started.
Sure. Yeah.
And then a lot of memories of playing street hockey on our long driveway. And I have one memory of, so we weren't wearing helmets, which we should have been, and I was probably 7 or 8 at the time, and I went up behind my brother to take the puck, and he brought his elbow back and his stick went straight into my eye, and I freaked out, and I was like, oh my gosh, my eyes pushed back farther into my head, and my dad's like, you need to calm down, you're fine. And then we were freaking out for a bit, and then I got an ice pack. My mom gave me some water, and then we're back out there having fun. But a lot of memories like that of me and my brothers kind of roughing it up, but it's awesome. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, and well, fortunately enough, none of those things, none of those scary events, none of that roughhousing or anything like that deterred you from continuing in the sport. So that's good, because I know for me, I'd be like, listen, I had a good run, but I need both my eyes. So I'm probably out. You were just like, no, let's get back out there. Ice it, get back out there. Has that always been your mentality when it comes to hockey?
Yeah, especially so my mom, she's tough. She does not let anything. We don't stop. We keep going. A lot of my injuries have been her kind of helping me along the way, even some big ones, and her being like, this is just a little bump in the road. I have to continue to keep working, and I think it's a lot credited to her because she's taught me from a young age that nothing will stop you and you got to keep going. So.
Ooh, good. I love that mentality, especially so early. You had mentioned Cheyenne, Wyoming. And so when I think of hockey hotbeds, if you will, I don't know that Cheyenne, Wyoming would be in my top 10 for sure, but probably not even in my top 15.
Nope.
Could you maybe talk about, you shared some of the personal hockey experiences that you had there, but maybe overall, what was it like growing up there, and what was the hockey environment, hockey scene like when you were a kid?
Yeah, it's very, very uncommon, especially when me and my brothers kind of got into it. There's one rink in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's not open in the summer. and it's all boys. Like, when I started, there were no girls playing, there was, like, one other one, but I was on an all-boys team, the whole coaching staff is boys, a lot of the parents never played, so it was just freshly getting started, and I just remember it kept growing as we got older, and then we kept moving so I could be on a higher team or compete with girls, and now coming back, there's a girls high school team, a girls mini mite team, which to think about it now, in the past 10 years, that's a huge change. And I think with the PWHL and the Olympics, everybody's kind of being exposed to it at a younger age. And
Mhm.
especially in Wyoming, it's grown so much, which is pretty awesome to see.
You have talked about this specific camp in Nashville really being a major turning point for you. Could before we dive into that more specifically, could you talk about what that was like? What the different experiences that you had at that specific hockey camp in Nashville?
Yeah, I think so. I had gone to this camp not ever being on the ice with another girl my age or a coach. And I stepped on the ice and it was an all girls camp. We had an all girls coaching staff, we had two Olympians there. I
Mhm.
think it was just a big switch in how I would say treated. Because it had always been about the boys. Everything like from I don't know, a practice to a game to after the games and coaches and scouts. And it was just such a different experience. And I was inspired by like Coach Decker and Casey Bellamy because I knew that there was something more. Because the boys always had the NHL to look forward to. And now I was like, there is something more that I can keep like make a goal to look forward to. So
And so, and I'm glad that you mentioned specifically Brianna Decker, of course. What was it like to be able to be in that environment and to be around Olympians and Olympians, not just Olympians, but female Olympians? What did that mean, and what were those interactions like for you?
yeah, just on the ice doing drills and her teaching me specific things, it was more she had been in my shoes and she knows what it was like to be on an all boys team and to not be as treated as highly as the other ones, and she kind of put herself on the same ice sheet as me. It wasn't like I was talking to somebody who knew more than me, and just as a little 9-year-old, I was just out there having fun, having her teach me some skills that were important that I had not learned at the boys stage or on the ice with the boys coach, and it was very awesome to see, and it shifted my mentality to wanna be like her, so
Yeah, and being like her also means representing your country. So, and along with so many other things about that specific camp, one of the things that came out of that was that you said, you know what, I'm going to make it a goal to make Team USA, to represent my country. For you, especially so early on, how important was it to set that mindset, to set that as your goal? That's a pretty lofty goal, especially so young. But how important was it for you to set that goal and to set that as sort of the trajectory that you were on?
yeah, I think just seeing her come accomplish these goals showed me that that's something I want to do and that's something I want to look forward to. And as the years kept going by, I learned about the U18 team and how there's double unders on the U18 team. You can be on it with when you're 15. And I remember in 7th grade, we were making a dream poster and I put out a picture of it said Zug Switzerland U18 Women's World Championship and I glued that to the poster and I
Mhm.
was like, this is what I want because I knew girls had accomplished it. And I love this sport. I loved practicing with my brothers. I loved being able to talk with my parents about it. And every day I just look forward to that. And I achieved that goal, which was awesome. But I think ever since that Nashville camp, it showed me there are things that girls can do that boys are doing as well.
And that's incredibly motivating. And we've spoken a little bit about Team USA, but it isn't just that you just kind of alluded to it right there. It isn't that you made it a goal, just made it a goal. You have done it. You have represented your country now on multiple occasions, and including, no big deal, very recently, where you brought home the gold medal. It was incredible to watch that tournament, to watch you play, to watch your teammates play. Um, I do have to ask, you made it a goal, and then it happened. How did it feel to put that Team USA jersey on for the first time and to realize that dream, that piece that you glued onto that board, that dream board of yours, that picture is now not just a picture, it's a reality. How did that feel too?
Yeah, I just obviously in the moment, it has been something I looked forward to for so many years, but my road to it was not as easy as it may seem because I was invited to the U18 national tryout and then I was named to an alternate, so I did not compete in this series that first year, and then invited to October camp, which I made the team off of that October camp, and then put the jersey on for the first time at the national stage, which is
Mhm,
a pretty big switch. And
mhm,
I just remember this is what I've been dreaming for so many years. And I was out there. It was just a preliminary game versus Czech, but it felt like the world had just exploded. I was like, this
mhm,
is everything.
mhm.
And your parents are there. My brother was there. It's more, it just felt like a moment that was more than me. It was something that my parents had followed along for a while and just something that I'll never forget.
Well, then I guess I feel like you've already answered this one, but I do want to find out what were some of those, maybe it was your first time representing your country, maybe more recently, of course, as well. But what are some of those memories that you, even in this moment, you look back on and you're like, oh, that was crazy. That was so cool. Are those memories or are they kind of still sinking in at this point?
Think if I think to a special memory, it would be my first year in the gold medal game because I had was playing against Czech, and my best friend at that time was on Team Czech as well. We played at Shattuck together, and we were both 15, so we were both brand new to this national stage, and then we're playing in a gold medal game versus each other, and we were on the ice against each other a couple times, and it was just surreal. I was like, "This is bigger than I imagined it would be." And in that game, I scored the second goal, which ended up being the game-winning goal. In the moment, I didn't know that, but I was just out there playing. But looking back and seeing the memories and the highlights, I'm just so grateful to be there, and it's a memory that I'll have forever.
And I want to ask, of course, there is the long-standing rivalry between Canada, the US. You have played Canada on a number of occasions, including most recently in the what ended up being your gold medal winning game. Um, what's it like to I'm sure throughout your junior career, throughout your time, you have seen on TV the rivalry between Canada, US, certainly at the national level, Olympics, World Championships, rivalry series. But now you're playing in one of those games. What was it like to be a part of that rivalry, and what were some of the takeaways that you had both from your own perspective, but also playing against a talented Canadian team on a number of occasions?
Yes. Especially the first time I played Canada, I realized it's not like any other rivalry, and I think it's so much more competitive because everyone is playing for their country, which is no that's the first time kids have done that at their age, and it's like you wanna leave everything out there because it's so important and it's at such a big stage, and it's everything about every game is so competitive and you wanna beat them so bad,
Mhm.
and especially watching the older girls, they're everything it's so physical, it's so competitive. Every goal, they work every 5 pla all the 5 players on the ice are working for that goal, and it just relays to the U18 level because we watch how competitive it is at the next level.
And speaking of the next level, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask. There is a lot of conversation around the progress that not just any country, but the Americans have made, and specifically how they've integrated their collegiate talent at such like as early and as often as possible. Especially as somebody who's going to be entering the collegiate realms, it's just right around the corner, which I'm sure is crazy when you think about. Um, what does it mean to you, and how from kind of being on the inside, how exciting is it to see the progress that the American program specifically is making, and how successful they've been with the introduction of their collegiate talent? How exciting is that to be a part of? Well, and also about to be a part of more specifically, of course.
It's very exciting because a lot of the younger players play for Wisconsin, and I like to see them now at that stage because I look up to them so much, and especially Kirsten Sims because she's my mentor for USA Hockey. I'm happy to see that she's stepped up and now competing at this big stage because that's something I wanna do in the future, and I love to see it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I want to, something that you've said is, and I feel like this goes for a lot of players, of course. But you've said specifically, as it feels like as often as possible, you remind people about how important the support has been for you throughout your journey. You kind of mentioned earlier about your mom instilling that mentality, that mindset in you as very early on. Who maybe are some of those people or some of the programs throughout your junior career as you look to embark on this next chapter of your hockey career? Who are some of those people, those programs that have really helped you to become the player that you are, of course, but also the person that you are away from the ice?
Yes. I think some very important people who have contributed to that would be my parents, because ever since we were little, they have driven everywhere and taken me to every practice and every game, and they are just as important to this game that hockey is to me, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. And also very important is my brothers. They spend hours with me outside working on new skills, shooting and competing against me and not holding back because they know that's what I need. And even at every world my older brother has been to, he has helped me ride the wave not high, not low, and he's kept my emotions under control. Even with how crazy it can be and stressful, he's helped me in the most important events in my life. And I am so grateful to have them on this journey because I really don't think I would be where I am without them.
Well, and speaking of where you are, we have to talk about the Dolphins. We have to talk about the Etobicoke Dolphins. What's it been like to join the Etobicoke Dolphins, your junior career to this point? What's that been like for you? What's it felt like to now be a part of the Etobicoke Dolphins program that, quite honestly, never seems to be able to lose a game? It's just that they have that championship mindset. So, just what's that been like to be a part of?
It's been unbelievable. When I was first coming up, I was obviously nervous because 'cause they've got so many Team Canada kids. I'm like, "I don't know what they're gonna think of me. I don't know how I'm gonna fit in." But it has been the best decision of my life. Joe has pushed me to limits that I didn't know I could go to. He's held me accountable at every opportunity that he could. And I've made an unbelievable amount of friends who just every practice are working so hard and push me to become my best. With our team being so competitive in our games, everything has been another level that I think has prepared me to go to Wisconsin. And I think it's been the best decision for me and as a family to move up here.
Yeah, could you talk about what made you decide that this was going to be the program that you were gonna partake in as you look at the next chapter, like kind of finishing out your junior career with the Etobicoke Dolphins and looking at your collegiate career moving forward? What went into that decision and why Etobicoke?
Yeah, especially so when the Rivalry series was a year ago, Adriana was on the US, and I had met her and I had made really good friends with her, and she talked to me a little bit about Etobicoke and what Joe was like, and as the year went on, I had kept talking with her and reaching out, and I knew I wanted something a bit different before my first year going into college, and she had told me how Joe coaches and how hard he is on his players, but to a point that pushes them, and how competitive the OWHA is and how our team would look next year. And I kept having calls with Joe and reaching out, and I finally came down and did a couple tryouts and toured the rink and our opportunities there, and I'm like, "This is what I need before the following year," and it has been unbelievable.
Well, I've seen the dressing room and some of the facilities there, and it's no one that would be an easy yes for me if I had the option. Um,
Yes.
You've mentioned how much Joe, the head coach, has pushed you and has helped with your development. Would you be comfortable sharing some of those more specific aspects of the game that you feel have really taken off since being a part of the Dolphins that have really set you up for Wisconsin?
Yeah, I think something that he's really worked on with me throughout this year has been my mental side of the game, because he finds in me that I'll hold on to bad games or bad shifts, bad plays, and it will turn into a spiral where my following games are bad, or if I'm in a bad headspace during practice, it'll lead on to continued a continued road of not being successful. And he's told me that it is so important to clear your mind and block out the noise. And when he's taught me that and I've worked on it throughout this year, I've been very successful and been easier on myself because I tend to be too hard on myself. And when he pushes me in these areas, it just helps me in my full game around defense and offense and on the bench. And it helps me become more helpful to my teammates as well. And I'm encouraging and an all around better player.
When he encouraged you to start looking at the mental side of the game and to look at, did that surprise you to see that, like, the change almost, the evolution of your game once you started looking at the mental side too?
Yeah, I think I had never really paid a lot of attention to it, and especially being on the US team so young, it it's important for me to learn it now than it is later because my whole life I've been so intrigued on other people's opinions as myself, as a player on the ice, as a player off the ice, and Joe has taught me to not let the opinions of others affect how I play. And it's really changed my game in a short amount of time, and it'll only become greater for Wisconsin, and I think Coach Jackie, my coaches at Wisconsin, are grateful for Joe because this is something that's very important to learn before going into college.
Okay, well, I feel like that's a segue. We have to jump on that train because we got to talk about, we've put it off long enough. We've put it
Yeah.
off long enough. I'm sure that you're dying to talk about Wisconsin. Wisconsin has such an incredible legacy, incredible, it develops such incredible athletes. I'm gonna ask you why you chose Wisconsin or why you ended up choosing Wisconsin. I feel like I could list out the reasons, but I'd love to hear from you. What, when you were looking at taking that next step, what was it about Wisconsin that you said to yourself, that's where I feel I can make the most of it, I can develop the most, I can become the athlete I want to be?
So, when I was younger, I had a tournament in Madison, Wisconsin, and I saw the campus for the first time, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty nice." And ever since then, I wanted to go to Wisconsin. I bought the sweatshirts, I bought the pants, I bought all the Wisconsin stuff, and I had learned, especially after the first call on June 15th, I talked with them, and it proceeded on, and then I visited, and it was I knew the second I stepped on campus. I had met the players, I had met Coach Johnson, Coach Jackie, and what I love most is that he has been in our shoes and he knows how to coach his players because he's been in that spot. He's been in the most
Mhm.
stressful situations and he trusts his players and his players trust him, which I love. I love to see and I want a coach that will be able to have a relationship with me.
Yeah, it's great. It feels like you almost like manifested it. You're just like, you bought all the gear and you manifested this.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Um, and I appreciate that's kind of what, having a coach who's been there, who's been in those moments, how that can be a really, that can draw you into a program. What are some of the other things about this coaching staff in particular that you're looking forward to in terms of your own growth, in terms of opportunities, those sorts of things? What excites you about that coaching staff?
I think something that really excites me about this coaching staff is the relationship they have with Coach Jackie. She's very upfront. She'll tell you what you need to work on. She'll tell you what she loves about your game and where she sees you and all these things that are very important to be straightforward and honest with your players, which I love. And I've also heard how strict, but also in a good way, Coach Johnson is. He pushes his players, he holds them accountable. All practices are hard and the compete level is so high. It's all something that I wanted to be a part of and I knew would put me in a spot to be there for the next level if the national team is something I go to or the PWHL. It's all something that I wanted to be a part of.
Okay, it's like you keep setting me up with these perfect segues because I want to talk about, before we get to the final segment of today's show, I want to talk about what you're most excited about your future. I know there, of course it's going to be college, but I also like the broader picture of where women's hockey is now is brighter than it's ever been, and you're going to be you've been a big part of it, but now you're going to be an even bigger part of it moving forward as well. What excites you about your own future in the game of hockey?
Yeah, man, I just the whole huge growth of the PWHL because back then we had nothing to look forward to, and now there's like a women's NHL, which is just unbelievable. I can't wait to play in that, and I hope to play in that because I go to the games now, and it's just unbelievable the attendance and the fans and how highly women's hockey is being talked about now because you would never find that back in the day. And also, the Olympics, with that being
Mm,
happening right now, something
mhm.
that's on all the time, I would love to be part of that, and I can't wait to be part of the PWHL if that happens, so that's all something I would want in my future, and I'm so grateful that it's happening now, so it leads for the younger girls to be able to follow in their footsteps and join that path.
You know what this means? It means you need to start investing in some PWHL gear because it worked out well when you manifested it with Wisconsin. So let's just
Yes.
manifest it with the PWHL, right?
Yes, that's what I need to do.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So we have arrived at the final segment of today's show. It's called the final buzzer. It's just a fun way, rapid fire way for us to wrap up today's conversation. Are you ready to dive into the final buzzer?
Yes.
All right. Starting off where we always start off this final segment. What's your go-to pregame meal?
I'd have to go with my go-to pregame meal is pasta.
That's fair. What is one song or artist that gets you when it's game day and it just gets you ready in the mindset, pumped up for a game?
I would say Tate McRae, and one of her songs would be Siren Sounds. I like that
Okay,
one.
good choice. Good choice. What is something that people might not know about you?
I'm very quiet on the bench. I'm locked in, and a lot of the times I'll be replaying the shift or thinking about the next shift. I'm not very talkative on the bench.
Okay, fair. If your teammates had to describe you in one word, what do you think it would be outside of not talkative, maybe?
I would say, intense. I think
Intense.
they'd
Okay.
say I'm very intense.
Game face. Got it. Last one for you. If you could go back and talk to yourself, as a kid in Wyoming at that Nashville camp, just as you were starting to set up all those goals for yourself, what do you think you would tell her about the journey that she's going to go on to this point?
I would tell her to remember how much fun she's having right now and to continue to play for that reason, and that she's playing for no one else except herself.
I love that. That's great advice. All right. And that wraps up the final buzzer segment as well as today's episode. Hayley, this has been an absolute blast. Time flew by. I've
Yes,
been looking forward to this conversation for so long. And I'm
me
so
too.
happy that I had an opportunity to chat with you today, learn a little bit more about you. And you better believe it. We are going to be cheering you on. You're a friend of the show now. So we're going to be cheering on every milestone and a long hockey career that will absolutely involve the PWHL. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you enjoyed this episode as much as we both did, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow hockey fans. Your support helps me to keep bringing you stories just like this one from around the world of women's hockey. I'm Chris Sinclair. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Rinkside Rundown.